Hey everyone, Spicy Toast Gaming here. Hope you're having a great day. Hope this video can make it a little bit better. It's patch day. I'll put the patch notes down below in the description if you want to check them out. But patch 5.10, Fiddlesticks, kind of cut off here, but you can see that he actually did get revealed. So the new champions are getting Fiddlesticks as well as Evelyn. This should be very good. So we're going to go through and break down all the new information that was revealed. So to start off, world map campaigns. So alongside the introduction of the Fiddlesticks story adventure, players can now play different campaigns within Path of Champions. These can be toggled within the world map. Already, if you go in game, there's a little icon next to your legend level. I believe that's what it's talking about, so you can switch between the different difficulties right there. Then as of the 5.10, the following campaigns will be available: World Adventures and Nightmares. The campaigns are unlocked via Face Your Fears quest by beating a 3 or higher star adventure. Now, World Adventure are standard fare adventures that players have come to love in Path of Champions, and Nightmares are going to be the harder difficulties of these adventures for players to really test their mettle. The Ancient Fear adventure will be available in both campaigns with alternating levels of difficulty. So the new adventure, the one against Fiddlesticks, is going to have a, I believe, 3.5 star difficulty, and then another that's like 6.5 star difficulty as well. So it should be still fairly challenging regardless, but great that this adventure, pretty much everyone should be able to jump in and play it unless you just started the game. And even if that's the case, it shouldn't take you too long to unlock it. Now, as far as some new content, we do have that new adventure, the Ancient Fear. So take your strongest champion into this adventure to face off against a series of fear-inducing encounters and ultimately try to topple the ageless terror itself, Fiddlesticks. This adventure brings all fresh encounters to Path of Champions mix, as well as unique dialogue text and gameplay to bring that nightmarish flavor to the forefront. This is awesome. We haven't really had a brand new adventure for a while. I think the last one was really like Lysandra, because even Swain was a remix of an old one, and the other adventures we got last month were also kind of remixes of older adventures. So this is awesome. Now, it's not listed here, but actually in the Android patch notes, I believe, they also said that we're getting a Fizz and Viego Nightmare as well. So those should be interesting to check out if that is indeed also coming as well. But yeah, I don't see that listed in here, I don't believe. But we're also getting new champions. So up first, we have Fiddlesticks. Ancient Fear emerges from the darkness. Fiddlesticks joins the Path of Champions roster with a full constellation, new followers, new keywords, and a whole host of nightmares. Now, his images aren't loading right here, but they also put some stuff on Twitter, so we'll go take a look at that now. All right, so here we're taking a look at Fiddlesticks, and let's go over his star powers up first. So first, Nowhere is Safe. Round end, Terrify 1 for each time an ally struck the enemy nexus this round. Now, Terrify, this is a new keyword and effect they're adding into the game with Fiddlesticks. That new vocab right here, you can see obliterate X cards from the top of the enemy deck, X standing for just the amount you are terrifying. So if it says Terrify 1, then obliterate 1 card from the top of the enemy deck, activating any traps on them. So the enemy's card is getting obliterated, but any traps you have on there are still going to activate, which will be fantastic for another one of Fiddlesticks effects. So here then we see the 2-star +1 starting mana game start, plant 3 copies of random followers from your deck in the enemy deck as nightmares. Now this says copies, so it shouldn't actually be taking the cards out of your deck. It should just be making copies of it in the enemy deck as well. And these are nightmares, and then you're probably wondering, what are nightmares? Well, if you look down here, this is another new effect with Fiddlesticks, and this is a trap, so it has some good synergy with that Terrify mechanic. Also note, this is done from your enemy's perspective when they draw a card. So your enemy, which is going to be you, the player, summons a unit from your nightmares. If it's a champion they have or their board is full, they create a copy of it in hand instead. So any unit you play, including your champion, should get summoned on the board when the enemy draws one of these cards. So it kind of works like a reverse portal almost. So similar to Nora, except instead of the portals being on your cards, they're essentially on the enemy cards. And then you're able to get your cards when the enemy draws these. So it looks like, since this says if it's a champion they have, so if you already have the champion on the board, then you'll just get a copy of them. So essentially their champion spell in hand. Or if your board is full, you'll then get a copy of the champion or unit in hand. So yeah, this is what a nightmare is. Very fun and interesting effect. So far we have the 1-star, letting you terrify the enemy if you get a Nexus strike with any of your units, and then some of your cards are going into the enemy deck as nightmares. So when they're drawing cards, including when you terrify them, which obliterates their cards, you're potentially summoning some of your own units as these nightmares. Now for the 3-star, Nowhere is Safe, round end, Terrify 1 for each time you've damaged the enemy nexus. So the first star is you have to actually strike the nexus, which is obviously much more difficult. Here it's just damaging the nexus is able to terrify the enemy. This should be excellent, and a lot of effects that just deal small amounts to the enemy nexus will be fantastic. So going for like Phantom Pranks, when one of your units die, you deal 1 to the enemy nexus, or the effects when you play a spell or summon a unit, you deal damage to the enemy nexus. Any of those will be fantastic for Fiddlesticks, because every time you do that, you are going to be obliterating some of their cards, which might also summon units for you. This seems like it'll be very fun, really being able to just punish the enemy and often just make them run out of cards. Now your 4-star is Disarmed, enemies have -1. This is actually pretty nice to have, especially in the tougher adventures where they have the deadly modifier. This is pretty good, especially also for Fearsome, which you do have on many of your units. 5-star, mana flow, simple and straightforward. The 6-star though, when you Terrify, grant enemies gloom, so just all enemy units, their entire board gets hit with that gloom effect, so -1/1 for each Terrify you do, and grant a random ally, so just a specific unit, 2 spirit, so essentially giving them 2/2 as far as stats. This will be really nice. You're trying to terrify the enemy as much as possible, so you're not only then obliterating their cards, potentially summoning units from those cards, you're also then really hitting the enemy board with a bunch of negative stats, potentially killing their units while buffing your own board. This Terrify is just doing so much for you. This should be a lot of fun. Now, taking a look at Fiddlesticks himself, 3-cost Runeterra champion. He does have that Fearsome. Game start, plant me as a nightmare deep in the enemy deck. When I'm summoned, grant enemies 2 gloom. And he also has a 7/6 stat line, so massive. Now for Fiddlesticks, he is a 3-cost, but normally you shouldn't be having to play him. And for one, it seems like all copies of him are just going straight into the enemy deck. And it says deep in the enemy deck, so probably the bottom half at least. So you're just going to be trying to do that Terrify effect, obliterating enemy cards, so you can try to fish for your Fiddlesticks in the enemy deck. This should be pretty interesting. His level up is then the enemy deck has 15 or fewer cards. This will be interesting. Enemy decks are kind of inconsistent on the amount of cards they actually start with, so Fiddlesticks will actually be stronger depending on what the enemy has. But again, you're trying to terrify the enemy as much as possible in order to make them obliterate their cards. But also, when I'm summoned, grant enemies 2 gloom. So again, just hitting the entire enemy board with -2/2 is going to be awesome. Now I'll actually jump ahead a little bit to look at his level up. He gets 1/1 as far as stats. His other effects are the same, except now it's when I'm summoned or attack, grant enemies 2 gloom. So every time he attacks, just hitting the entire enemy board for -2/2, making it so that they can't often block your Fearsome units, or they're just getting really reduced down. So Fiddlesticks seems like he's going to be insanely powerful. Now, as far as some of the other support cards coming in his deck, so we have Dread Harvester, 8-cost 5/5 with Fearsome. Play, kill a unit. This could be your unit or an enemy unit. Round end, Terrify 1 for each unit that died this round. So the more units that died, whether they're yours or the enemy's, this is just going to be terrifying the enemy, which will be fantastic. Next up, we have Reap, and you can honestly think of this as kind of a more versatile Mystic Shot, except it can't hit the Nexus. So 2-cost fast, grant 2 enemies gloom, or 1 enemy 2 gloom. So either you're hitting 2 units with -1/1 or just 1 unit with a -2/2. So pretty good, especially just to get multiple applications of gloom out there. Should be pretty solid, especially for just a 2-cost. Next, we have Forgotten Terror. So 1-cost 6/3 stat line, Overwhelm and Challenger. So very strong card. And with that, it's paired with the Lurking Nightmare. So 1-cost 1/1, Last Breath, plant a Forgotten Terror, so the other card, in the enemy deck as a nightmare. So this is the card that's actually in your starting deck, and when this dies, you get this in the enemy's deck as a nightmare. Then we have the Nightmare mechanic we already went over. All right, next, let's take a look at his champion spell. So Crow Storm, slow speed, grant enemies 2 gloom, so hitting the entire enemy board with a -2/2, and then Terrify 2, so making them obliterate 2 cards. Also note, since this is a slow spell, getting slow but steady makes this go off twice, so pretty big spell. It is expensive, but just nuking the entire enemy board by -2/2, also getting rid of 2 of their cards, pretty solid. Bit expensive, but still good. Then we have Baleful Seeker, so 4-cost 5/3 with Challenger, strike, plant a copy of me in the enemy deck as a nightmare. Now this is just strike. not Nexus Strike or anything like that, just getting a strike off with this unit. So you can really use this to try to generate a bunch of copies of this in the enemy deck. Then we also have Shallow's Siren. So 3 cost, 1/4, elusive, and when you draw a card, Terrify 1. This would be a very strong effect, especially depending on what you can get as far as a build, because just having this on your board and then you get some draw going, you'll just be able to completely decimate the enemy deck. Then last up, we have False Friend. So 2 cost, 1/3, fearsome and impact. Attack, give enemies -1 this round. So just making it even harder for them to block anyone that has fearsome. So overall, Fiddlesticks is looking awesome, really fun, adding some fresh new mechanics to the game. Both the Terrify and Nightmare mechanics seem like they'll be a blast. Now, they did actually show us his starting deck. They released a gameplay video of him that's just like a minute long, so definitely go ahead and check that out. I'll try to remember to link that down below, but here you can see we have the Lurking Nightmare. So pretty much we have all the cards we just went over, except for the one card that's made by the Lurking Nightmare dying, and then we also have the Arachnoid Horror. So great that he's just getting his entire support package, pretty much. This should be really good. Now, we don't know what items these get other than right here, which is just 2 common items, but it's also great that he's getting his champion spell in his starting deck as well, so maybe we could see some cost reduction on that. Moving on then, let's talk about Evelyn. She is a champion that's getting updated to a full constellation. So for her 3-star, well, her 1st and 3rd star power are staying the exact same. The 2nd star power is pretty much the same. +1 starting mana the first time you kill a allied follower. Each round, create a fleeting copy of it in hand. So they're just reducing down the scope, so this is just affecting your own units and no longer copying enemy units you kill. Often you'll be using this because when you consume a husk, it counts as killing an allied unit, so you can potentially play another husk. And then we also have the 6-star. When an allied husk grants stats to an ally, it grants double the amount, so just further helping your scaling. And this actually can compound and be pretty scary because you could have a husk consume another husk, getting twice the amount of stats, but then when you have another unit consume that husk, they're getting again twice the amount of stats, so it can compound on top of itself and get pretty crazy. Now, as far as the 4-star, they actually showed in the patch notes, but it's really small. It's the Biggle Dust Stash. When you summon a created ally, grant it 2/2, so just making all of your husks be a little bit stronger. And then you just have the normal 5-star for the 1 extra starting mana. Now, they did also update her starting deck, so they got rid of the Viper Worm, the annoying dragon, and they replaced it with Ceaseless Sentry. Pretty good. That does have a last breath effect of draw 1, so potentially you'll be using this with your 2nd star power to kill the unit, summon it again, and then be able to get some more draw going. And then they also replaced the Phantom Prankster with the Siren Song, as you can see down here. So that's a 6 cost, summon a husk, and grant 1 cost units everywhere, an additional 1/1. So pretty good updates to her starting deck. Now let's also go over the epic relics you can get for both of these champions. So up first, we'll go for the Fiddlesticks one, Harmless Scarecrow. So epic power. When you play a card that costs 3 or more mana, Terrify 1. Now, you don't have to play this on Fiddlesticks. You could potentially play this on other champions if you also wanted to go for the Terrify playstyle. Obviously, this has the most synergy with Fiddlesticks, but still not limited to him. But when you play a card that costs 3 or more mana, Terrify 1, while the enemy deck has 15 or fewer cards. This is the same as Fiddlesticks level up condition. Allies have 2/2 and Overwhelm. So just a very powerful effect for trying to close out the game. This is really nice, and it means that even if you don't have your Fiddlesticks, since this is a power, it's still going off. And again, you could use this on other champions as well. Will be interesting to see who can actually benefit from this the most. Could actually end up being a pretty versatile one, but we'll have to wait and see. Still, seems like it's going to be pretty fun. The Evelyn one, Siren's Call. So power, game start, create an Evelyn in hand. Again, this isn't limited just to Evelyn. You could use this on any champion. Might really like it on Aurelion Sol to get another champion. But power, game start, create an Evelyn in hand. When you summon a husk, it loses immobile. So this is fixing one of the main issues with Evelyn, which is not being able to draw her. This just guarantees you're drawing your Evelyn. It also means your husk can actually block or attack. Now, you want to be careful with this because, especially with your 6-star, you want to be sure your units are getting buffed up from your husks. But it's nice that you can actually use them to respond, especially to enemy attacks. So this is pretty big. Moving on then, they are adding a couple new items in the game. Sadly, one's not loading quite yet. Again, go ahead and check out the patch notes that I have linked down below. Potentially is updated by the time this video comes out. And then I know it's small, I can't really increase it anymore, but it's Play I Strike the Enemy Nexus, and it's called Corrupted Gatebreaker. So here's a separate, bigger image of it. Play I Strike the Enemy Nexus. Now, this does seem like it's just going to be an item in game, so this isn't replacing Gatebreaker as far as a relic. This just seems like a item you can get on some of your units, hopefully your champion. So it should be pretty fun to be able to get this as an upgrade in the shop or item chests so that you can get Gatebreaker on other units. Should be pretty fun. Now, the other one right here, not really sure what it is. I'll have to wait and see, I guess, when the patch goes live. Now, new bundles. There's a normal 3 bundles for Evelyn, same 3 for Fiddlesticks. Battle Pass. We are supposed to be getting a Battle Pass every single month. And then there's 2 new bundles, which don't really have any information on at the moment, but an Experience bundle and a Star Crystal bundle. And it says these bundles will allow you to unlock gradually increasing levels of value for different resources such as XP or Star Crystals. So not really sure what that means. Not sure if these have their own Battle Pass-like system of as you play the game, you unlock more, or if this is the type of system where like every day you log in, you unlock another bonus. So we'll have to see when the patch actually goes live, what these cost, what you're actually getting. But they're adding 2 new bundles into the game, one for Experience, which will be good because while they don't list it in the patch notes, they are supposed to be updating the max level for all of your champions up to 50 and the max legend level up to 80. So the Experience bundle could be helpful for leveling up your champions, and the Star Crystal bundle is solid because outside of the bundles for champions specifically, there's no real way to get Star Crystals or buy them. So if you're wanting to support the game and upgrade your champions, you still could never buy Star Crystals, so now is the way to do that if you're wanting. Now, they did also make some changes to Evelyn's starting deck. We already went over the units they changed, but they also tell us what items they changed, which is really nice. So instead of the Viper Worm, we are getting the Siren Song, and it's getting Tear the Goddess, so it's going down to a 4 cost, pretty nice, and Grifter's Deck, so when you play it, you create 2 1-cost versions in your deck. Grifter's Deck, always a lot of fun, and this going down to a 4 cost makes it much more playable, so that is a great upgrade right there. They got rid of the Phantom Prankster, gave us the Ceaseless Sentry with Serrated Dirk, so that's fearsome. For Vora, this is one of your 3 costs. Instead of Giant's Belt and Hardy Rations, it's getting Great Club and Phage, so Phage, 2/2, and Great Club is Overwhelm, but they are making Domination your other 3 cost. Get rid of the Phage and just get the Giant's Belt. Suitor, it's going from Stud Leather to Philosopher's Stone, so a little bit of extra draw. And then Hate Spike is changing to Morello Nomicon, meaning its damage is going to be dealt in the form of Gloom. Also note that for the Emporium, the Starforged Gauntlets aren't going to be available anymore, so if you want to get them now, and instead they're replacing it with Nora's Portal Accelerator. And then as far as bug fixes, fixed an issue where Heimerdinger's displayed Piltover and Zon in his wallet instead of Bandle City, and an issue where the Bounty Hunter World Adventure was 0-star difficulty instead of 0.5. Alright, that's it from the patch notes. Really excited, looking forward to playing, especially with Fiddlesticks, although some of the updates to Evelyn also look very solid. Also really looking forward to the new adventure with Fiddlesticks. Everything's really themed around Halloween or spooky season, and I think it's going to be a blast. If you enjoyed the video, a like and subscribe is greatly appreciated. Also, we will be streaming all of the new content as soon as it goes live, so definitely check out the link down in the description for my Twitch channel if you want to see me testing out everything as soon as it's live. That's it from me, though. I hope you have a great rest of your day. See ya.